It's day 3 in the trial of Eric Bodenweiser. He's the former state Senate candidate who's been accused of molesting a young boy back in the 1980s. Well, today, Bodenweiser's defense attorney questioned the alleged victim and things got heated in the courtroom. Sussex County Bureau Chief Evan Koslof joins us outside the courthouse in Georgetown. And Evan, tell us about the atmosphere inside that courtroom today.
Yeah, based on past interviews with defense attorney Joe Hurley, I think we all expected to see some conflict, but I don't think anyone expected for it to be as hostile as it was inside there. And it actually got so bad that the judge had to send the jury out and call for a break. His attorney led the way as Eric Bodenweiser left the courtroom this afternoon holding the hand of his wife. But they left early today. That's because inside this courtroom, the back and forth got so severe that the judge called it a day. And it all centered on this man, the accuser, who says he was molested when he was between 10 and 12 years old and Bodenweiser was in his 20s. The alleged victim looked angry and frustrated on the stand. At one point, he yelled at the defense attorney, Joe Hurley, saying, quote, "I don't know how you could defend someone like that," talking about Bodenweiser. And then came the disagreement that ended questioning for the day. Hurley asked why he kept going back to see Bodenweiser if the abuse was taking place. To that he said, quote, "I looked up to him." In response, Hurley then seemingly mocked him, suggesting something too graphic to repeat on air.
The victim is Mr. Bodenweiser.
After the judge ended session today, Hurley told WBOC that he didn't mean to offend the accuser, who he says is just frustrated, caught in a lie.
It's frustration coming out because he cannot reconcile all of what I told you yesterday. Black is white, white is black, up is down, down is up, and he don't have any answer for it, and he's frustrated because he doesn't. And he doesn't remember what he said before. And I wonder why. When you're fantasizing, it's difficult to keep the fantasy straight.
As the legal maneuvering continues, one thing is clear. This trial is heating up in Sussex County. And we still have a lot to go with the defense's questioning. Today, Mr. Hurley brought up 5 contradictions with the allegations, but he told me afterwards that that's only about 15% of what he plans to bring up. So we're sure to have a long and tense day tomorrow in the courtroom. Reporting live in Sussex County, this is Evan Koslof, WBOC News in Georgetown.
Today, the defense kept calling witnesses to the stand. 8 witnesses in all, trying to poke holes in the accuser's story. Our Sussex County Bureau Chief Evan Koslof live outside the courthouse. Evan, the defense again trying to poke holes in that story.
And take a listen to the amount of people on this witness list. Today we heard from a detective, a school administrator, a supervisor at Bodie's Market, a trio of former roommates of Eric Bodenweiser, a childhood friend of the accuser, and even a school guidance counselor. All of them took the stand. Just as he has time and time and time again, Eric Bodenweiser made his way into the courtroom today. Though he will not be testifying in court, his lawyers have been doing a lot of talking. His attorney, Eric Mooney, seen here, called 8 witnesses, all of them testifying about inconsistencies between the accuser's story and their own. The defense called 3 former roommates of Bodenweiser who say they never saw the young boy in the home. At one point, one of them said, quote, "He was hardly ever home," as he referred to Bodenweiser. He worked a lot. One big topic of discussion today was what the accuser calls the tanning bed incident. He said that he was molested in the bedroom when he joined Mr. Bodenweiser at the tanning bed. But today on the stand, multiple witnesses said that the tanning bed was in the living room and was never in the bedroom. Another former roommate recalled that the tanning bed needed an outlet that was only available in the living room. In response, the state attorney shot back, suggesting that the man's friendship with Bodenweiser was getting in the way. He said, quote, "He gave you a place to stay when you needed one." Later, speaking of the witness's job at the Sheraton, the state attorney said, quote, "Bodenweiser got you that job." Lastly, when the accuser's school guidance counselor took the stand, he said he met with the young boy more than 10 times during the alleged abuse, but he says the boy never mentioned it. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back here bright and early. The defense will finish calling witnesses. Then will come closing statements, and then it'll be the jury's job to start deliberating. Reporting live in Sussex County, this is Evan Koslof, WBOC News in Georgetown.
Courtroom attendance triples today as the former Delaware Senate candidate Eric Bodenweiser testifies for the first time. Good evening. I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. Welcome to WBOC News at 6.
Eric Bodenweiser, accused of molesting a young boy in the 80s, denied all sexual wrongdoing during testimony. However, he did admit to showing adult movies to the boy which he calls a horrible mistake.
Our Sussex County Bureau Chief Evan Koslof continuing to follow this trial. Evan, lots of drama today as Bodenweiser takes the stand.
Dozens of people gathered wall to wall inside that courtroom to hear what Eric Bodenweiser had to say, and they were hanging on every single word. And once he got up on the stand, he told the jury that he is an innocent man. He looked confident as he made his way inside. The day before, his lawyers presented 8 other witnesses. And today, in a surprise move, Bodenweiser himself took the stand.
It's his testimony. It's not mine.
WBOC caught up with one of his attorneys, Eric Mooney, to ask him what to expect.
He will maintain that he never sexually molested anyone, including this accuser.
And that's exactly what he did. He pointed out inconsistencies with the accuser's story, including what is referred to as the tanning bed incident. The accuser said he was molested by a tanning bed in the master bedroom, but on the stand, Bodenweiser said that that was impossible due to the room size. It would have never fit in there, he said. When his attorney asked him if he ever tried to put it in there, he said that the bedroom didn't even have the right type of outlet to do so. On the stand, though, he did admit to showing the boy adult movies. He said it all started in 1991. I came back to the house and went in the bedroom, he said. In there was the boy in the bedroom, and he was looking at a Playboy. At first, he says he told the boy to go home, but eventually he said he let the boy watch adult movies 3 or 4 times. I thought I'd show him, he said. A horrible mistake. Bodenweiser then got some harsh questioning from the state, at one point asking, were you attracted to younger men at this time? His response then and throughout the case to this question was no. Now, Bodenweiser finished just over an hour ago. He'll be back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. where they'll have the closing arguments, and then it'll be up to the jury to make a decision in Sussex County. Reporting live at the courthouse, this is Evan Koslof, WBOC News in Georgetown.
Surprising end to a local trial. The judge declares a mistrial.
You've seen our coverage before.
Today was day 10 of the trial against Eric Bodenweiser.
WBOC has been on the scene covering the case of Eric Bodenweiser facing charges of molesting a young boy in the late 80s. And it all ended in a hung jury back in June. Come January, the process will all start over again. But where is the question? Bodenweiser's defense attorney, Joe Hurley, says the coverage by WBOC and countless other media outlets has made it impossible to have a fair trial in Sussex County, and he's turned to a poll to try and prove it. Hurley contracted a company called Susquehanna Polling and Research to poll about 1,000 people spread throughout Sussex, Kent, and Newcastle counties. The poll asked residents if they had an opinion on the case and if that opinion would impact their fairness as jurors. In Sussex, just above 12% said that they were unlikely or very unlikely to change their opinions. That compared to 2.6% and 3% in Kent and Newcastle counties.
I've been practicing law in Sussex County for over 22 years. This is the first time I've ever heard a defense attorney use a poll to try and determine if there had been too much pretrial publicity.
John Brady, a Georgetown attorney, says polls are rare, but changes of venue are even more rare. And so he says this is a creative way to prove a point.
Unlike Maryland, where in certain cases you automatically get a change of venue, Delaware you have to prove where the venue is so contaminated you need to change.
Completely unusual.
And attorney Ed Gill says that these polls are uncommon simply because of limited resources.
You're talking about a tremendous amount of time and money being spent to go ahead and gather that data to go ahead and present to the court.
The state has already responded to the poll, questioning the fairness of the questions. In court documents, state attorneys said that the poll might have been, quote, conducted in a subjective fashion rather than a random or neutral manner. The defense will have until November 28th to offer the court their argument for why a change of venue is needed, and the poll numbers are likely to be included. In Sussex County, this is Evan Koslof for WBOC News in Georgetown.
Now to Eric Bodenweiser. We told you yesterday that the former Delaware State Senate candidate accused of molesting a boy in the 1980s will have his next trial moved from Sussex County to Kent County. Our Sussex Bureau Chief Evan Koslof looked into the ruling by Judge E. Scott Bradley and this decision to move the trial. Evan joining us now from the Bureau. And Evan, an action like this is very rare in Delaware.
Yeah, it's actually been more than 2 decades since a change of venue was granted here in Delaware, and in his 2-page opinion, the judge explained why he made that decision. You might remember Eric Bodenweiser was charged with molesting a young boy in the late 80s when he was in his 20s. His first trial at the Sussex County Superior Court ended in a mistrial and a hung jury. The aftermath, his attorney contracted a pollster to try and prove that it would be impossible to find a fair jury in Sussex County. Now Bradley has responded, and here's a small segment of it. He said, quote, "There exists in Sussex County a reasonable probability of so great a prejudice against the defendant that he cannot obtain a fair trial in Sussex County." Now, WBOC did also reach out to a Georgetown attorney, James Brady, to hear his interpretation.
Previously, I said you have a better chance of winning the lottery. The lottery was won. You're not guaranteed under the law a perfect trial. But what you are guaranteed is a fair trial. There are a lot of people that know Eric Bodenweiser in Sussex, not as well known in Kent, and that may be why he chose Kent County.
Now, the second trial will be on January 12th, now in Kent County. From the Sussex County Bureau, Evan Koslof, WBOC News. Back to you guys.